Hello and a very warm welcome to yet another episode of We Talk Talent Series Season 2, specially curated by the Economic Times HR World to unravel the latest trends surrounding the human capital management space. I am delighted to welcome today's guest with us, Ashish Bansal, Vice President and Head HR, Extramarks. With extensive hands-on experience in the business critical people function, Ashish is the Vice President of and Head of Human Resources at Extramarks. Extramarks, it is a leading new age 360-degree digital learning company focused on the preschool, K-12 and test prep segments. Ashish spearheads the overall human resources strategy, including talent acquisition, leadership development, diversity and inclusion, organizational design, and cultural development. In his capacity, he also oversees employee development, compensation and benefits, HR operations and technology, and employee relations to drive the brand's holistic vision of its human resource. Ashish holds an MBA in HR from the Institute of Management Technology, Ghaziabad. Prior to his role at Extramarks, he has held several leadership roles across front-running brands such as Times Internet, Lava International, MobiWik, InfoEdge, and Apollo Tires. Throughout his prolific career, Ashish has been instrumental in setting up exceptional HR systems and processes and scaling up numerous high-growth businesses. At Extramarks, Ashish works closely with different teams leaders to drive the human capital management strategy and build an inclusive, high-performing culture. Welcome, Ashish.
Thank you, Apeksha. Thank you so much.
So, without any further delay, we'll start with today's interview, and I'll put forth my first question to you, Ashish. So, Ashish, if you could just, we can start with if you can please share a brief overview of the disruptions and transformation in your industry, particularly.
Sure, Apeksha. Really happy to be part of this forum, Apeksha. Thanks for inviting. As far as transformation and disruption in edtech goes, in my view, there is no other industry, which has gone through the kind of, disruption in last 2 years, the scale of it that we have seen. Uh, I mean, it all started with the national lockdowns in March 2020, where everything came to a standstill, and overnight, just like various organizations went from 100% offline to 100% online mode of working. Education also came to a standstill for a while. By and large, across schools, colleges, institutions, and so on. The adoption happened more as a force fit initially, where people including teachers, schools, and kids all were struggling finding ways and means their hardware, their software, everything else was not in place, so everything happened in a jiffy. They were sort of scrambling resources to put together a way of keeping the continuation of their learning, of the kids, overall. Uh, and I mean, good thing is that India as a country was already there with respect to a lot of resources. For example, internet was already available, at cheap rates, high quality bandwidth, and so on. So one thing was already taken care of. So I count internet as one of the big factors in the overall transformation and disruption that was caused in edtech industry, while the pandemic only sort of accelerated it or catapulted the whole disruption. But the enabler was internet. If it was not there, it was let's say what it was 7 years ago, 10 years ago, where we were operating on 2G and 3G bands, this would have become almost impossible. So all of these things put together, the disruption started from there. Now in the current day and age, we are more hybrid as an industry, so people have become used to it. People have already adopted the digital way of learning. At the same time, with schools reopening, there is a very good mix of offline and online play on the edtech side. Another thing which has happened is there was a sort of disproportionate disadvantage to the tier 3, tier 4 cities, the villages, the kids getting raised in tier 3, 4 cities and villages. They were not having access to the best of teachers, the content, the exposure was limited to their local, diaspora. Now, with this whole change, they also went online. They also have access to internet. They've always had access to internet, just that they have now known how to put it to use, as long as education is concerned. So you will see, I think, in next 5, 7, 10 years, a lot of bright kids coming from tier 3, 4 cities and villages, making their mark in best of institutions, colleges, and industries, companies like yours and mine. So I feel this is one big, demographic change, which we will see, which we'll witness in the next, 5 to 10 years, when these kids, who have adopted the digital mode of learning, when they make their mark in the world, when they step out of their villages and towns, with the same ammunition which, kids from urban cities, have. So my take is that this is one biggest shift, which we will see, which we are seeing already, and it will change the Indian demography. The whole demographic dividend that we talk about, as young population, educated population. I think we're just going to see a whole lot of more, demographic dividend, coming out in the next few years. So that's my take on the disruption that has happened in the tech industry overall.
Sure. Thank you, Ashish. So, you have taken us to an overview kind of a thing, sharing some great insights with us. I would like to narrow down to your organization specifically and ask you about the kind of employee engagement practices that you have in your organization at this moment, especially like you mentioned, all those years when things drastically changed for a lot of people out there. And I believe that you being a young organization, you also employ a good mix of people across all age groups and all, and more maybe inclined on towards a younger generation kind of a thing. So how it is about the employee engagement strategy, how you have maybe started to plan it out, implement it, and what is the current status of it?
Of course. So, see, I mean, the way we look at employee engagement is, before and after pandemic, I would not say the core philosophy has changed. The core philosophy has remained the same. Where we ask the question, who are the engaged employees? That is where we start. That who are the engaged employees? And our belief, our sort of litmus test of engagement is people who know what to do and who want to do it. So the second part of it, people who want to do it is a slightly external control kind of a thing, but people who know what to do is totally an internal control, for our organization. So we focus on the part of it telling people what they are supposed to do. At least we make sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to do, and we give them enablement, so that they want to do it. We give them environment, we give them all the scope, that they're motivated enough, they're engaged enough on how to do it, which sort of drives us to a sort of virtuous cycle of two things, which is performance and engagement. So we say that performance leads to engagement and engagement leads to performance, so they feed each other. So it could be the other way around also. Engagement leads to performance and performance leads to engagement. So we don't know what comes first and what comes second when it comes from goes to an individual. For me it could be engagement first, for you it could be performance first, and leading to another, right? So our objective at Extramarks, before and after the pandemic has been that we want to set very clear goals, on every level. We define it by saying that this is what is required as an input. Input is where we are expected to do certain things in a certain fashion on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And then there is a output assigned to the input, that if I do X, Y would be my output. And input, output, and outcome are three things that we define at different layers of the organization. So the bottommost layer is more aligned to the input, where we would say that if you do certain activities, there should be certain output. Output is something that comes at the next layer, where this person is expected to ensure that the inputs are made in certain fashion where the output is as expected. And eventually the outcome is at the top layer of the organization, where we are saying that top management sits and they say that this is the outcome we want to bring, at organizational level. So this is the first thing, which helps us, tell people that this is what you are expected to do. Second thing, is we try to make it very, very transparent and objective. A lot of times, there are managerial biases. A lot of times people get confused, on what is it that I'm expected to do, or if I'm doing the right thing. How do I know that I have achieved, what was expected of me? So we have very clear matrices, we have very clear systems. So we have tools. We have got best in class systems and processes to enable our teams to have a very transparent view of what they have achieved on a daily, weekly, monthly and yearly basis, right? uh, Third thing is, once you know that you have achieved, once I know that I have been able to achieve what I was supposed to achieve, I need some gratification. As an employee, I need a reward. I need to know what will I get. Of course I'm getting the salary, of course I'm getting the incentives, but what is my career path? How will I grow? Why should I stick around in the company? I need to have those answers for me. So we say that best gratification in the job is achievement. At the same time, one should know what are the multiple milestones, of the performance journey of a particular employee, right? So I start from level A to level B to level C and level D, and I should have a view of my career for a few years hence. I don't really talk about 10 years, but I say at least 2 to 5 years of a vision should be available to every employee, where they can reach if they are able to achieve a certain milestones in their career at Extramarks, right? Similarly, we don't say that, while we focus on performance, we also have some of the best in class benefits, perks, for all our employees. We have engagement events, we have fun at work teams, and so on. But the real glue of stickiness for us is high performance and reward associated with the performance. So all in all, we say that if you're able to provide predictability to people, you're able to provide career paths, you're able to provide fast track programs for the high growth performers. Engagement will be there. People learn and see each other. They see one person performing, they also emulate. They also want to see themselves sitting in the same seat tomorrow. And this is what defines performance and engagement in a high growth high engagement company like us. So the paradigm shifts in a lot of companies at and it also is defined by the stage at which the company is at. So Extramarks is a company, we bring the best of two worlds. When we talk about a large established company, so we are a 15-year-old market leader in the B2B edtech space. At the same time, we function like a startup. So our decision making is quick. We are agile, quick on our feet. We have a rapid product development process. We release new products every few months. So we give you the flair of a startup while the security of a large company. So I believe there is a very specific kind of population which we look for. People who are ambitious, people who want to make their career fast track, and we provide for that in return. So this is overall the way we look at engagement at Extramarks, where we want to drive performance, we want to reward performers, we want to give them fast track growth plans, and provide predictability.
Thank you, Ashish. So this was great to understand from you the kind of employee engagement practices you are putting in place. Like you talked about, like you're bringing the best of both worlds to your employees. They're being the pioneer in the tech sector and also working, showcasing as a startup and then one kind of a dynamic environment on place for them to go and take on the success start. So if we talk about the kind of skills you're looking at when you're hiring, I'm sure everybody seeks a good combination of technical, soft skills, and behavioral skills, which you all talk about these days. But how do you set those priorities when you hire for maybe different kind of roles and responsibilities?
See, I mean, while as an organization, when I said that we are a fairly established organization, it also means that we have people who have spent a certain tenure, people who are old in the system. who understand the ways and means, of working in the company, what kind of people work, well with us, what kind of people don't work well with us, and so on. I mean, ideally, technical skills, per se, is something which is a baseline, and by and large, it's already sorted, it's already figured out. Not from the perspective of assessment while you're interviewing, but from the perspective of coaching, teaching, getting people ready for their job. So we have in-house academy, to coach, all the new joiners on this technical skills. So which includes product training, which includes sales trainings, and a very robust process in itself. Uh, what we look for rather is, the second part of our employee engagement principle, of knowing what to do and wanting to do. So what to do is something that, as I said, is internal. Wanting to do is external, and that is what we check for. And when we hire someone, how willing is someone, how ambitious is someone, how how much hunger does someone have, in the career, when they want to join Extramarks. In other words, I would say we look for attitude first and aptitude second. So that is where we try to focus most of our energies while we are hiring. We're looking for the behavioral skills, we're looking for the soft skills, and we're looking for the attitude. Technical skills, for us is a baseline. uh, it's equally important in some roles, wherever you're looking for a ready-made kind of a talent, where you're looking to sort of buy talent from outside. There is something new or a niche skill, etc. So you would want to evaluate technical skills, and you want someone who is also technically competent, along with the attitude that we want, right? So cultural being, having a good cultural fit is the most important thing. It also lies at the heart of our employee engagement strategy, where we look at people who are wanting to do it. So anyone who knows what to do it and is wanting to do it, our job is done. Of course, we'll provide with all bells and whistles, with respect to your employee engagement practices, benefits and perks. But having said that, getting into the mind of someone, the psychology of it, it's not a easy task. It's not a equation which is solved yet, right? And while we're trying to solve for it, at the same time, we want people, of a certain kind, who are willing to do it on their own first. We will provide them with all the right enablement. We'll provide them with all the uh, knowledge of their job, the training around it, the coaching around it, best of mentors and processes. But the willingness has to be there. The whole idea of being engaged has to be two pronged.
Of course, Ashish, that's a valid point made. So, Ashish, if you talk about certain futuristic things, how do you see jobs evolving in your sector, considering that edtech is kind of a industry that is quite looked after at this moment? So, how do you see jobs evolving in terms of how they will pace out in functional areas? What was going to be the ones which are like hot kind of in demand skills and jobs which are there to be grabbed by the youngsters? I'm sure there are a lot of people who are looking into this interview to seek specific answer to these questions,
Of course.
contemplating maybe career changes.
Of course, of course. So, see, edtech as a sector, while a lot of it has already been figured out, the major change that we're going to see is on the AI side. On the side where a lot of machine, based intelligence, will drive learning. So this is one part of it where so machine learning and AI, skills, will be high in demand. We would want to build products which are able to sort of coach, assist at an individual level. They're able to sort of see how Ashish is learning versus how Apeksha is learning, and suit the product, suit the coaching style, to their learning style. So slowly and gradually, I think this is the way edtech will grow as an industry. Plus, the nature of jobs, will also change. It's, I mean, edtech as an industry has always had, when what we say is gig roles, gig economy. For years, for decades, we have seen teachers, we have seen tutors, going from one coaching center to other coaching center, from morning to evening. The same teacher is giving a session, in one coaching center in the morning and second coaching center in the evening, right? The same teacher teaches in one B school, as a full-time faculty, and goes as a visiting or a guest faculty to other B school, right? So gig has already been there, for years and decades, without calling it gig, in the tech space or education space, if I have to say so. EdTech space has made it, more democratic. So you have educators, you have teachers now sitting in the remote corners of the country and providing the same lectures, same, course curriculum, to the audience across the country. And sometimes even outside the country, they're sitting and providing it in India and abroad. And there are many players, who have sort of got global content, on their platforms, and have been able to, democratize, the role of teachers, the role of educators, in such a way where a teacher sitting in Delhi can actually, teach someone sitting in, let's say, a Fagwada in Punjab, which is, maybe a tier two town, right? Otherwise, they may have had access to only, certain kind of teachers and faculties. So from a role perspective, data sciences, R&D, machine learning and AI, are the focus areas. From a type of people, who are coming in, I would say there is a lot more, shift towards gig within edtech, within the, academics, and, the R&D function.
Sure, Ashish. So while we have come to almost the end of this interview, but before we let you go, I would like your inputs and your viewpoints on something which is quite trending these days and for quite a long time now. It is the gig economy. While globally gig has taken over a lot of big organizations and industries across the world, and it's a hot topic there. How do you see Indian organizations embracing this trend specifically?
Yeah. So, I mean, see, in India, by and large, the way I, see gig is that it started with the sort of gray collar, blue collar kind of, roles and jobs where you would see delivery boys, taking up a gig role in Swiggy, Zomato, or some logistics company, subletting of their gigs, is a common trend and so on. However, more and more, in the skilled category where, you have white collar roles, where you have, I would say rather niche roles, so if I talk about design, UX, you would see a lot of design UX people now leaving their full-time jobs and only doing gig, only doing freelancing, in other words. So they would be parallelly working, on multiple projects with multiple companies, committing only few hours, every day or few hours every week, to a particular company. Another thing, so with the more and more new technology, sort of coming in place, things like, blockchains, things like, Web3, when you will have paucity of talent, with the advent of new age technology, this drives the gig economy in its own, by its own, at the niche knowledge worker level, while there will always be a thriving gray collar, blue collar, kind of a gig economy, it will only grow from there. The push at the white collar level will be driven by the paucity of talent, in the new age technology sectors, and even, for example, AI and machine learning, even software development, slowly and gradually, will move towards gig roles, so you would need certain kind of experts, though those will be far and few, and more and more when they will be in demand, you will see them, getting towards the freelancing mode, moving towards the gig road. So organizational maturity as a, reality will have to change. It's already changing. A lot of employers, new age employers, are already welcoming, gig workers. I mean, we ourselves have a lot of gig workers at Extramarks, and when I say we have, gig workers with us. We have them in academics as well as our R&D and technology teams. So remote working has become a norm as it is, and which is also sort of facilitating the gig economy in the niche knowledge worker category. Otherwise it was slightly more difficult when we were supposed to go to a particular physical office 2 years before this. So it was not so simple that if I were to do HR consulting tomorrow, I can do it very easily sitting at the comfort of my home. Before pandemic, it was visiting 5 different kind of companies in 5 different kind of places, and spending hours and hours traveling to those places, right? So all of these things put together, I think globally, not just in India, I would say the majority of organizations has been accelerated. It is being driven by the demand supply of talent in the niche roles, plus the whole shift to virtual mode of working is also facilitating the gig economy for us.
Thank you, Ashish. This has been a very informative and interesting conversation. So thank you for your time and for joining us today at this We Talk Talent Series Season 2.
My pleasure, Abhisha. Totally my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashish.